Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of I Am Rohtak's alumni podcast, Kathor Vani. Today, we have with us our guest, Sanam Puri. Ma'am is from PGP 4 batch of I Am Rohtak and graduated in 2015. From the campus, she joined EY as a consultant and has been working with them since then. She previously completed her graduation in the field of mathematics from Delhi University. We welcome you, ma'am. Now, over to you, Shivani, for taking this conversation forward.
Hello, Sanam.
Hello, Dishank. Hello, Shivani.
So, my first question to you is Sanam that students usually have misconceptions about consulting. Can you please throw light on it by telling how a typical day at your job looks like?
Sure, Shivani. Well, I can really imagine that a lot of people, whether it's MBA aspirants or MBA candidates or even working professionals, they have a lot of curiosity around what consultancy is all about and what we consultants do or deliver. So we don't have any tangible work products per se. And to describe a typical day, it's very, very difficult for me. So if we look at today is a Sunday, which is like a weekly off for a larger population, but I am working because my current project is with a client in Middle East and they work from Sunday till Thursday. So even I have to follow that schedule. So there's not a defined typical day for us. In consulting, we work around a very broad spectrum of like it's a very broad spectrum of work in terms of solution offerings, in terms of sectors. So if I give you my example, so in last like 6 years I have worked across almost all HR solutions, be it organization design, performance management, compensation, rewards, change management, so on and so forth. And if I talk about sectors, so I have worked across retail, telecom, pharma, engineering, oil and gas. So like last like 2 years back, I was working with a telecom client in Bahrain, and immediately, so that was like a 1 year long project, and immediately after that, I was put on another project which was with a pharma client in Goa, and I had spent like 6 months in a plant. So like the experience that we get and the kind of projects that we get are like very different from each other. But one thing that I really love about being a consultant and being in this industry is that we get a lot of opportunity to interact with CXOs. Like we have presentation meetings day in, day out. And this brings us a lot of knowledge and exposure, which I believe is unparalleled. And another best thing about is consulting is that we get a lot of chances to travel. It's in India or on site as well, depending on the projects that you are staffed on. So in a nutshell, there are a lot of variables to say and too few constants in life of a consultant. But if that really drives you, then I would suggest consulting is an option that's worth exploring.
So, Sanam, you've been talking about consulting. A lot of us find this like a very fancy term, and a lot of us are very fascinated about consulting. What are some of the common attributes that are found in a consultant that help you do well and advance quickly?
Sure, Shivani. So even when I joined EY, I was not very sure what consultancy is all about. So things were very new for me, the entire environment and consulting, etc. So then, like after having spent 5 to 6 years in consulting, now what I can say is that in consulting, as I've said before as well, we work with different clients in different sectors, and we have different solution offerings. So no one is really born with that kind of skills, or we can't really run through a formal course. So what can make us a good consultant and really help us advance in our career is our learning agility. So basically, we need to have that ability and willingness to learn from our own experience and then apply that learning in future situations. So in consulting, every project is a learning experience for us. And that's how we build our credentials. And it's not just we as individuals, but even our practice and organizations as well. Our previous experience, our previous assignments with clients across sectors and different solutions, it really adds value when we respond to when we make proposals to different organizations. So learning agility is definitely one of the attributes that one should be focusing on. Second is self confidence. It's another important aspect of our lives is that we make presentations, we participate in discussions with in meetings with management, senior management. leadership, etc. So, and in these meetings, we discuss their business, we discuss sensitive matters as well. So, it's very important for us to present ourselves with confidence. We can't really afford to sound unclear or unsure if we are asked a question. So that's very important to build self confidence, even if you don't know things, even if you're not confident about, even if you're not aware of certain aspects. It's very important that you communicate your thought process with confidence. There are another important attributes as well, like being a quick thinker, analytics, team player, etc. So that also helps you become a good or a great consultant. Once you enter into consulting world, and you are sure that you really want to be here and you want to succeed, then a lot of these attributes you will ingrain yourself. The necessary attributes that you really think will make you successful, you will ingrain them yourself. Last but not the least, one really has to be prepared for some really hard work, long working hours, and sometimes we may even have to stretch over the weekends. My intention is not to really demotivate you guys, but being a consultant or being in this industry, it's amazing. It's a very glamorous job, but it's hard as well. So, but once you adapt yourself, I'm very sure that you will not regret being into consulting.
Thank you so much, Sanam. That was very insightful for anybody who wants to pursue consulting, I'm sure. You've talked about how projects have helped you learn. The first project is, I think, very important as it makes an impression and leads to better projects in future. So could you please tell us about some of the best practices to follow?
Sure. Well, I have a slightly different opinion. So it's not the first or any one project which is important. I would say that every project is important, and it has its own sets of complexities in terms of the experience that it brings, in terms of the organization that you are working with. So, as I mentioned, that we work with organizations, with different organizations, and different organizations have different people, different culture. So, you really have to understand all that, and so that's what makes the project complex as well. So, what is important is that we should leverage our learning and experience from our previous projects and then ensure that the delivery of our future projects is like the future projects are delivered with greater efficiency. So that's very important. If I really have to mention a few best practices that one can follow, I would say that would be understanding your clients' pain areas, understanding their problem statements, understanding what their expectations are from you as a consultant. Second is the quality of your work products. So even when EY, when we present our work products to different clients, so in the proposal stage, we have actually competed against different the other big fours. We have competed against Bains and the McKinseys. So they have those expectations set, and that should be reflected in the work products as well. So it's very important that we understand the client's expectations. We deliver quality work products. Another important aspect is to have very clear communication with your clients, and stakeholder management is also another important aspect when we work on different projects. As a consultant, you are also required to be flexible. So we understand that there are set of tools and a set of templates that we use for different solutions or for different clients, but it's very necessary that we customize our solution approach to the client's needs. So we can't really be stubborn with the client, so we have to be flexible enough and open to their ideas as well. And as and when we grow, if you see the career path that you usually see is you join the consulting world as a consultant, then you grow as a manager, senior manager, and there are different layers. So so once you start working on different projects, so it's very important that prioritize work prioritization becomes an important aspect of your work. And then time management as well, because if you're managing different projects, you have different timelines to manage. So work prioritization, time management are the key aspects that you really need to take care of. So it's a great learning experience, and your learning and leveraging your learning from the previous projects will really help you in delivering the best in future.
Saram, you've been talking about of certain skills. I was wondering if analytical skills are something that we were born with or it can be developed. And if it can be, what are the few ways in which we can sharpen our analytical skills?
Okay, so talking about analytical skills, so I would say there, yes, there are a few people who are born with analytical skills, but it is definitely a skill that can be developed over time as well. So thinking analytically is nothing but like it's like learning how to play a new game. So it can be taught, it can be learned, and it can be improved with practice. But unlike other skills, it cannot really be learned by sitting in a classroom and being told how to analyze a problem. So that's something that one can really not do. So you really have to learn it by doing. So what's important to build analytical skills is to continuously and actively engage your mind, keep your mind active, and keep it running all the time. So if I have to give a few suggestions, I would say one can read books, one can play brain games like Sudoku. You can join debate clubs or online communities. And especially in B school, you can actively participate in your class discussions, listen to others' point of views, and introspect your own thoughts. Be inquisitive, ask questions. So this is how you will understand your thought process, you will understand others thought process as well, and you will start analyzing, so that will become a part of your life. The other important thing that you can do is so we get a lot of case studies for different subjects in MBA. So instead of considering those case studies as just a task and just complete it for the sake of completing it or for the sake of scores, so that's not really the approach that one should follow. I mean, these are like real business scenarios, and understanding the problem statement, solving it, coming up with the solutions. It's a great way to strengthen your own analytical skills. And another way of sharpening your analytical skills is you can participate in B school competitions. There are war rooms, etc. So these are the platforms wherein you can learn from other like-minded peers with similar level of intellect, and that will really help you hone your analytical skills.
For someone who wants to pursue a career in HR management, what are the essential skills and competencies? How to work towards these skills?
So, one of the very important elements of an HR professional job is to liaison with employees and leadership. So hence, communication skills become a very important competency that we really need to imbibe as an HR professional. Another important aspect is interpersonal skills. So HR professionals, they really work across functions. They collaborate with leadership, with employees, with people across different departments. So they need to have good interpersonal skills to build relationships and to build a rapport, so that they can to build a rapport with people across the organization. That's another important aspect. So HR is one function which deals with a very critical resource for any organization, and that's its employees. And for HR, no one can really predict the situations or the problems that they will face day in day out. So hence, thinking like critical thinking skills are also important. Is an important aspect that HR needs to focus on to understand the situations, the complexity of the situations, and then they have to think of an approach to resolve employee concerns, employee grievances. And in fact, empathy is also an important aspect which HR needs to focus on, because they have to manage employee grievances. Other important competencies and skills that are important for an HR is conflict resolution, negotiations, etc. So, so employees in any organization, they come from different backgrounds. They have different experiences. So HR professional really needs to cultivate an environment wherein people can work together and they can work towards business improvement and help the organization achieve its objective. And how can you hone these skills? It's basically so people who have taken up HR, as who are studying HR in IIM Rohtak currently, so they can learn a lot of HR They can learn a lot of HR things in the classes, but what's also important is to be abreast with the latest happenings in the HR space. So for which you have to really be aware what's happening in different organizations and how are HR responding. And specifically in this COVID times, HR has suddenly become a point of focus, and people really want to know how are HR responding, how are HRs in different organizations they are responding to this pandemic. So it's important that we are abreast with the latest HR happenings in the industry.
How, according to you, will the companies deal with the blurring boundaries of work and home? Like, because of the COVID, especially, the boundaries have been blurring a lot. Actually, the balance have almost gone. So, how do you think the companies will be reacting to this?
So this COVID pandemic has really forced organizations to suddenly switch from a physical working space to a remote working space. And organizations didn't really get time to, think of an approach and make a plan for this migration. So this happened in a very short period of time, and people really had to migrate and also ensure that their productivity is not really impacted in this entire progress of migration. So this was done because the organizations had to take some steps. But going forward, what we are hearing in the industry is that this is going to be a long time situation. Like people may or may not come back to the physical workspace. So, but then if you want to make this entire remote working concept to be more sustainable in nature, it has to there has to be a structured approach, which will involve change in the culture as well. So, business leaders will need to set up practices to communicate clearly with employees and stakeholders. The managers especially will have to actively reach out to teams on frequent basis, have regular feedback sessions, have understand what the employees are going through on day-to-day basis. So communication will become a very important aspect. Communications will be quicker and they will be more frequent as well. Second thing is, so we didn't really have HR policies that would support like there are limited HR policies that would support a remote working concept in the industry. So there is a focus on improving the HR guidelines as well, setting clear guidelines for employees to how that will help employees deal with this new ways of working. Talking about this blurred boundary between work and personal life and limited and no physical contact with peers and with people in the organization. So organizations are really actively investing on employee well-being. They are consciously planning virtual coffees. They are planning virtual sessions so that it will give opportunity to the team to connect and to share their emotions. So in fact, if I talk about EY, and especially if I talk about our team in EY. So when this entire remote working concept started, so we used to have a weekly call just to know how people are doing, how the projects are going on, and then we started playing games, and we started having virtual after work drinks, etc. So these are ways which really help employees to know each other and stay connected even in a virtual working place. So, in a nutshell, I would say that a structural implementation is necessary, and we can't really rush, but we have to move ahead and build a step by step plan for making it sustainable.
We've been recently reading a lot about how AI is getting implemented in various domains. So, what are your thoughts on how big a role does AI actually play in the recruitment process?
So, if I talk about recruitment, it is one area in HR which actually involves very high volume of tasks or activities. And a lot of these tasks and activities are repetitive in nature as well. So there is a huge scope of automation in recruitment process. And organizations are already exploring automation and artificial intelligence. They are extensively exploring new technologies to streamline and automate various parts of recruitment workflow and to improve the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the process. So, if I have to give you a few examples, for example, CV screening is a very time consuming process. So, there are AI powered tools which can screen the CVs, and they will look for some. So the robot will look for some keywords and phrases and help you identify a few relevant CVs for the HR people. So this way, the entire process, the turnaround time and the efficiency of the process can be improved. Organizations are also introducing chatbots on their websites. Basically, they talk to the candidates, they answer their basic questions, and there are some advanced chatbots as well, which talk to the candidates, and they also analyze their responses using NLP, which is natural language processing. And it allows them to see if a person really demonstrates certain skills that the role requires. So that's on CV screening and engaging with the candidates. There are a lot of pre-selection assessments and online assessments as well, which organizations are rolling out, and for having the first level of selection. And there is AI used in tracking of applications, sending feedback to the employees. So in a way, it improves the process for the HR, and also it improves the experience for candidate. So yes, AI is has a lot of potential to improve the overall recruitment process.
We'd really like to thank you, ma'am, for taking the time of your busy schedule and be here today. We truly had an enriching experience. It was our pleasure listening and learning from your experiences. We're grateful to have had you here as our guest for this event. Thank you again.